It's NFL Scouting Combine weekend, and NFL free agency is just over a week away. What to do about Amari Cooper? So many questions to be answered on the Blitz, which starts now.
Pops out to the right, breaks a tackle. They blitz it. Prescott throws it down the right side for Lamb. Caught it! To throw, rush, sacked by Parsons. Fade, left side, Cooper, touchdown!
And welcome to the 19th year of the Blitz, your Dallas Cowboys report. Bill Jones along with Mickey Spagnola, who, yes, was here 19 years ago when this thing started. Actually, it was 18 years ago. This is the 19th season of it. Back in 2004, Kyle Youmans will be joining us later from the Scouting Combine in Indianapolis. And Mickey, yes, it's gone by like that the last 18 years.
And does this mean since the Blitz has begun, the offseason officially has started?
That's exactly right. That's what we're here for. For the next 16 weeks, we are here to bring you up to speed on what's going on with the Cowboys during this offseason. And what we've discovered over the last 19 years is the fact that the offseason is just as important as the regular season, especially here in the month of March. The league year starts here in less than 2 weeks now, really just over a week away. And we get things started from the Scouting Combine, where we got a little bit of news this past week, Mickey, from Stephen Jones when he addressed them, from Mike McCarthy when he addressed the media, that Dak Prescott actually had a little surgery after the season on his non-throwing shoulder.
Non-throwing shoulder, right? So it's this left one, right? And yeah, I think that's kind of surprised everybody because Dak never showed up on any injury report all season long for a shoulder. So it must have been kind of an irritant. He ended up having arthroscopic surgery. The Cowboys termed it as a cleanup. So that's kind of good news. It shouldn't be a long-term thing. And Bill, they're expecting him to be ready to go when they start any of their off-season workouts.
And of course, the official team off-season workouts will start next month in the month of April. And the other thing that's been talked about, of course, with free agency looming on the horizon very soon, is not only the 21 unrestricted free agents that the Cowboys have this year, but also some of those big contracts on this current Cowboys roster. And Stephen Jones was asked specifically about Amari Cooper at the Combine this week.
Do you expect Amari Cooper to be on the roster in 2022?
It's too early for me to address that yet. I mean, we're continuing to have conversations. A lot of things affect that in terms of, we obviously been so fortunate to have, those three great receivers on our roster, and obviously that's hard to keep doing, under a salary cap. And certainly, Sed did a really nice job for us, and he's up. So, there's some moving parts to that we'll have to continue to massage as we move forward.
Something that all NFL teams go through this time of the year, what to do about some of these big contracts. And we always see salary cap casualties this time of the year. But give us the specifics on what they're dealing with the Amari Cooper situation.
Well, what they're dealing with Amari, he's got a $20 million base salary. And from what they're looking at and the troubles the Cowboys have under the salary cap, that's a pretty big hit. But here's the deal with him. They can say, okay, we're going to release him. They'll end up incurring $6 million in dead money for roster bonus, signing bonus. They've got to account for that. That was prorated, right? So you could release him, but you're going to gain $16 million. But here's the other thing, Bill. Say they release him. The other 5 receivers, they're all unrestricted, right? So you basically have CeeDee Lamb, if there's no Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup coming off ACL surgery. He might not even be ready to start the season, and he's unrestricted. Cedric Wilson, your 4th guy, unrestricted. Noah Brown, your 5th guy, unrestricted. And number 6 guy, Malik Turner, unrestricted. So go ahead and do that, but now tell me who's playing wide receiver for you. And none of that stuff, you can't say, oh, I'm sure we can re-sign those guys, because you just don't know. And you've got to do the Amari Cooper one if they're going to make a move before the 5th day of the league year, so March 20th, they have to make a decision by that. We're keeping them, restructuring them, or letting them go.
And if they let him go, obviously you got to have wide receivers on this team, and you're going to be using that money to sign those wide receivers, whether you're signing them in free agency or drafting wide receivers. All right, so much to get to on this edition of The Blitz. We take a look at unrestricted free agents like Dalton Schultz when we come back in just a moment.
The Blitz is brought to you by AT&T, official sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys, and by the Dallas Cowboys Football Club. This segment is brought to you by AT&T, official sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys.
You know, it's been kind of slow here the last 6 weeks or so since the Cowboys season ended, but things are about to pick up very quickly. Things are going to be fast and furious around here, so we welcome you back here to the Blitz. Bill Jones with Mickey Spagnola. That's because of the number of unrestricted free agents the Cowboys have this year. 21 in all, basically an even split, offense and defense. We're going to break it down now for you. Let's start on the offensive side of the football. We already talked about all those free agents at the wide receiver position, but when you look at this list, tight end pops up immediately, the kind of season that Dalton Schultz had this past year, and really coming off the last 2 years, he's unrestricted. And so that's the one that jumps off the list for me, Mickey.
Yeah, absolutely, because he was certainly an integral part of the offense with Blake Jarwin dealing with coming back from torn ACL the previous season, and then he had a couple other injuries during the season. He ended up being the top tight end, and as a matter of fact, not just the top tight end, he finished second in receptions with 78, only one behind CeeDee Lamb, and he was tied for the most receiving touchdowns with 8. So when you look at the tight end position, okay, you do have Blake Jarwin under contract, but then what? Because also Jeremy Sprinkle, who they used quite a bit, he's unrestricted. And Schultz, I mean, you might have to decide, can I afford to franchise him? Because it's a 1-year, $11 million franchise tag for the tight end. And if they look and let him go into the open market, boy, I think somebody will pick him up and maybe pay him more than the Cowboys can afford.
And that franchise tag tender would have to come here in the next 24 hours. Connor Williams on that list too. Probably looking at him leaving in free agency.
Yeah, and I think that what they'll do there is take a look at him and see maybe what market value is. See what somebody else is offering and see if they can match it. And again, you know, everybody comes down on him. He had trouble with penalties, but besides the penalties, he played awfully well, and that's why he ended up starting back again the last month of the season.
All right, let's look at these defensive free agents. As you know, the defense was revived in 2021, but so many guys who were on 1-year deals. Randy Gregory topping the list here. Just breaking down the defensive linemen there, Gregory, Armstrong, Urban, and Watkins. Those last two were on 1-year deals, but Gregory is the one that pops out.
Right, absolutely, and especially knowing the Cowboys need these defensive ends out there. You know, there's been talk about maybe moving on from DeMarcus Lawrence. He's counting $19 million in a base salary, but he would also count $19 million in dead money if they let him go. So for the Cowboys standpoint, the franchise tag would be pretty expensive on Randy Gregory. It'd be right around $20 million. They would like to get him signed to a long-term deal and get him signed maybe to a long-term deal before free agency begins, because I don't think you want to see him in free agency. Somebody will gobble him up. And then, again, Dorrance Armstrong was the next defensive end up, Bill, and he's unrestricted. What's his market value? They may have to test that one. And then if we look at the defensive tackles with Urban and Carlos Watkins, he's a starter. Watkins, he played quite a bit. You know, at some point you need to have some of those guys come back. And then you mentioned, linebacker, Leighton Vander Esch, right? So now you got Parsons, Micah Parsons.
Yeah, I think that's one of the big things that you figure out, okay, is Parsons a linebacker or is he an edge rusher or is he both? Regardless, I mean, they've already, by cutting Jalen Smith last year, you took away from your veteran depth there, and now you've got Leighton Vander Esch as well as Keanu Neal linebackers who are free agents.
And somebody's got to play linebacker, right? You're not going to just have a bunch of defensive ends out there, and I still think Micah Parsons is most valuable as a versatile linebacker because offenses can't decide where he's going to line up. And then if you look at the safety position, 3 of your top 4 safeties are unrestricted free agents: Jaron Kearse, DeMonte KZ, and Malik Hooker. So you can't let everybody go, but again, it comes down to market value and what space you have on the salary cap to try to bring some of these guys back.
And if you let them go, you still got to replace them with some quality defensive players too. So it's a quandary, and it's going to be very interesting to see how the Cowboys answer these questions here in the next couple of weeks as free agency gets going. All right, coming up next here on the Blitz, we're taking a trip to the scouting combine, and Kyle Youmans, what prospects might the Cowboys be looking at?
This segment was brought to you by AT&T, official sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys.
Welcome back to the Blitz, your Dallas Cowboys report. Bill Jones with Mickey Spagnola, and what a busy week it has been at the Scouting Combine in Indianapolis. Of course, the Cowboys have been there throughout the week. Our own Kyle Youmans has been there as well. We bring him in now to discuss what is going on behind the scenes. And first off, Kyle, set the scene for us. How nice is it to have everybody back at the Combine?
You know, Bill, it really is great to be back here in Indianapolis. Of course, this was an event that was held back in 2020 prior to the pandemic, but now it comes full circle after not having it in 2021. We are back here in 2022, and it's really back to feeling like normal. The scouting departments are here, coaching staffs, front offices from around the league, and, of course, the 350 prospects that have been invited here to Indianapolis. It feels like a bit of normalcy and of course, a lot of fun and a lot of information being shared throughout the league.
As we've seen, it's a different schedule this year on the NFL Network. We saw that the workouts didn't begin until later in the afternoon. How has that affected things this year?
It is a little bit different because in the past, I mean, this has basically been an informational gathering. All these scouting departments, these teams will come and meet up and ultimately share this information amongst each other. It wasn't a made-for-TV, a primetime event. Well, now that it is, it feels like those drills have been getting deeper and deeper into the week. And by the time that really the players, the prospects actually take the field at Lucas Oil Stadium across the street, they're already 3 or 4 days into the event. So it's a little bit different than it has been in years past, but it's still a lot of information being shared amongst these teams. I think even more so than in years past because of the later drills, there's more time to really get other things done. Agent meetings is one of the things that Stephen Jones really talked about earlier in the week in our conversations, him saying that, yeah, you're here to meet with the competition committee, see these prospects, but it's really a business week from the get-go, and I think that's how things have really changed here for the Scouting Combine.
Okay, Kyle, are there any signs of what position groups maybe that the Cowboys are keying in on this year?
It's a little different than what we looked at, I think, entering. The conversation was about interior offensive line. It was about maybe going and looking at an interior defensive lineman. Sure, those have both been position groups that the Cowboys have had their eyes on and will have their eyes on throughout the draft process. But ultimately, I think this week, tight end has certainly become a forefront position. Same thing with offensive tackle. This is a very deep offensive tackle class, guys really scattered throughout, and there's been a lot of conversations around some of these prospects that the Cowboys have had with them. They've had formal meetings with multiple tackle prospects, whether it be in the first round, second, third, doesn't really matter. They are looking at offensive tackle, I think, even more so than we anticipated coming into the week, and you could say the same thing about tight end as well.
Okay, give us some scoop here, Kyle. Is there a surprise name maybe that the Cowboys might be interested in that maybe you didn't anticipate as the week began?
Well, I just said tight end was certainly a position that has risen in its intriguingness throughout the NFL Combine this week. And Jalen Weidermeyer, Texas A&M tight end, is one of those names that's kind of emerged as a potential. They've had formal meetings with him. He kind of resembles a Dalton Schultz. Blake Jarwin can take the top off of a defense sort of skill set. Still very raw. There's a lot of things that he does well. Has the frame, has the size, the speed certainly there. He could learn from a route running ability as well. It's something that is going to knock his draft stock, but his separation isn't necessarily there as well. But something that I think the Cowboys look at as an opportunity to get him later in the draft. If he's not available there at pick number 24, even if he was, I don't think he's necessarily going to be the selection there. But at 56, maybe into the 3rd or 4th round, he might be a guy to keep an eye on. Another one is wide receiver and David Bell out of Purdue. Slot guy, he can play at the outside, very tough player, great with his hands, great ball skills, a technician of a route runner. If the Cowboys were to move on from a guy like Amari Cooper, and that's another separate conversation, but either way, if it's Amari Cooper or Michael Gallup or Cedric Wilson, there's going to be one of those names not in that wide receiver room, most likely heading into 2022. David Bell could potentially be one of those replacements, and he's been an early name that the Cowboys have been linked to.
All right, Kyle Youmans at the Scouting Combine in Indianapolis. And up next here on The Blitz, an intriguing draft prospect the Cowboys might have their eye on. Next. Welcome back to The Blitz. I'm Bill Jones, and time to take a look at an intriguing draft prospect with Britt Johnson. He hails from Arlington Heights High School in Fort Worth.
Thanks so much, Bill. Dallas Cowboys cornerback Trayvon Diggs secured 11 interceptions this past season, tying Everson Walls for the Cowboys record. Diggs crediting his ball skills to his history playing wide receiver before switching to corner in college. Cornerback Tariq Woolen out of UTSA has a similar story. Woolen played 2 seasons of college football at receiver before switching to cornerback, and well, that is when the magic all really happened.
Now, me being a cornerback, I like Trayvon Diggs. I just like certain players and stuff, but I like Trayvon Diggs, you know. And when they Cowboys had Terrence Newman and Miles Austin and stuff like that, I used to love that team too. So, yeah, I'd be happy, you know, just getting any call on draft day. But, you know, it'll feel great because it's the Cowboys, and I'm from Fort Worth, and that's only like 30, 40 minutes from me. So that'll be a good thing so all my family can come to the game and stuff like that.
At 6 foot 3 inches tall, Tariq Woolen is a big physical player who quickly rose to become the best corner in the CUSA, all while battling a hand injury during his senior season.
No, I'm not really a trash talker, but love to play man coverage. You know, just a combination of my length and speed, not allowing all the guys to run by me and stuff like that. So I like to go out there and make plays when I got a chance and just go out there and have fun.
As far as if he's a fit for the Dallas Cowboys, well, his height and his 33.5-inch arm length may be very enticing for defensive coordinator Dan Quinn. Back to you, Bill.
All right, thanks, Britt. Yeah, that 6'3" cornerback. That's you've seen that in Dan Quinn's defenses before. Cowboys don't really have a need at cornerback. We'll see where he falls in the draft. Maybe in the later rounds that they could take one. But you know, we touched on earlier in the show, Mickey, about the safety position and the number of free agents the Cowboys have at safety. That would be a need position in the draft.
Yeah, I think so at some point, because if you look at Donovan Wilson, one of your starting safety, is coming back, right? But after that, as we mentioned, Malik Hooker, Jaron Kearse, DeMonte KZ, the last 2 guys I mentioned, Kearse led the team in tackles, led them in snaps, by the way, on defense, and DeMonte KZ was a starter. So I don't know that you can re-sign all these guys, and you might have to. You got Mukwamu coming back, but after that, you may need some safety help.
Just keep in mind, it's the best player at a position of need.
Exactly.
And this team has a lot of needs, especially on the defensive side of the football. We'll wrap up the Blitz in just a moment with some key dates to look forward to.
The Blitz was brought to you by AT&T, official sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys. and by the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
All right, some key dates to look forward to this offseason. They're coming fast and furious, like I said off the top. Starting Tuesday, the franchise tag deadline, then the new league year free agency a week from Wednesday, Mickey.
And not only does free agency start, but also the salary cap begins. And you have to be under the salary cap. It's projected around $208 million. You got to be under by 3 p.m. on that day. So a lot of stuff could go on. And I remember one year I told Stephen Jones that, the bell's going to go off because you're going to be over, right? Well, they got under, and he said, I didn't hear any bells.
All right, I hear a bell. It's the end of our first show of the season here on the Blitz. We'll see you again next week.